Jalen Reagor getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out.
And good morning. Another Sunday here on the Belly Up Fantasy Live show. Week 18, we're here. Final regular season week of the season. And there's still a lot of question marks in the air. There's some interesting scenarios that I can't follow, honestly, because there's a lot of if one team loses, you can still make it in if all these other 6 teams lose. So we'll see what happens here. But before we get into all of that, let's go around the room here. Chase, how are you this morning?
Doing well, doing great. The only problem with today, the only problem at all with today is that I have to wait until the very last game of the day to watch my Packers play for their playoff spot. So otherwise, life is good.
Sounds good. I do apologize if I catch my cough every now and then on the microphone. I'm going to be trying to be quick with the mute button. But Kevin, how are you down in Texas?
We are doing good, and unlike what Chase was talking about with the snow and everything, we got clear skies here, so life is good. And watch the Jaguars become the 5th team ever to go from worst to first in their division. So congratulations to them.
Yes.
And as you said, this is the final NFL Sunday of the regular season, so we are definitely looking forward to the action today. There's going to be quite a bit of it. So glad you all are joining us. We have quite a lot to talk about.
Unfortunately, you and I are natural enemies today.
That's right.
Yeah,
well, if you win, there's no natural enemy.
Yeah. No, that's true. But if the Seahawks, speaking of those crazy playoff scenarios, that one's a little more straightforward. The NFC is a little more straightforward than the AFC is. AFC has about 13 different ways it can go. The easiest way in the AFC is if the Patriots win, they're in. They get it.
Exactly. It's done and over with there. But it became a little easier because Jacksonville actually won last night too. If Jacksonville lost that
because
game,
it removed them from the wild card situation. The NFL's decision to not play and not make up the Damar Hamlin game does screw a few things up, I think, over there in terms of just like seeding, but only for like down the road. The Chiefs winning last night means they're the number 1 seed. Now we'll see what happens down the road with who they play and if it's a neutral site or whatever else. But in the NFC, if Seattle wins and Detroit wins, Seattle's in.
That's right.
Yeah.
If Seattle loses, then the Packer-Lion game is a win and in situation. Regardless of what happens with the Seahawks, if the Packers win, they get the playoff spot. So the Lions are hoping that game still means something for them.
I like we were talking about on Wednesday, Chase. I don't think it really matters if it means anything or not for the Lions.
No, I think they play hard anyway.
Fully loaded for bear, if you will, because it's the Packers and everything else, and they'd be more than happy to knock out your team, and they both be sitting home.
No, I agree completely. I think they are going to be up for that game no matter what. I think Campbell is going to have them fired right up, whether or not. I mean, even if Seattle wins and this game doesn't, quote, mean anything to Detroit, it still does mean something. It's a winning record for them on the season. It's knocking their top division rival out of the playoffs. It's proving to everybody that, hey, like, we've arrived.
That's right. And as we talked about, Detroit is not intimidated by the Packers. When it comes to the NFC North, the Bears can't beat the Packers. The Vikings can't beat them. So, but the Lions can. They've shown that even when they were 3-10 or whatever.
Yeah, it has definitely not been the walkover that it had
today.
been. Like
that's right.
Favre, I mean, Rodgers has a great record against them too. Off the top of my head, I don't know the numbers, but I know that there was that 20-year stretch or whatever where they did not win in the state of Wisconsin, whether the game was in Milwaukee or Green Bay.
Well, the Lions weren't winning in the state of
they weren't winning in Michigan, right? But it's definitely has not been in the last few years. It has not been the walkover that Packer fans, I think,
And,
kind of took
and
for
when the
granted and
Packers
got
have
used to it.
one, they made Aaron Rodgers throw some of those ridiculous passes
Chuck
that
that
he's
thing,
known
yeah,
for,
from the
and beat
parking
him
lot.
at the last minute. So
That's right.
it should be a great game tonight.
Yeah, it should. They score a ton of points. I was going to bring this up later for them, but yeah, I know the Lions can score a ton of points. They can definitely score with Green Bay, especially this year when Green Bay hasn't necessarily shown that ability to consistently score points. Yeah, Lions are a tough opponent, and if they are the one of the three that actually make it in, that's a tough matchup for whomever they would end up playing as the 2 seed. So, yeah,
Right.
Yeah. They get firepower they can turn on anytime they want. It's just whether they can do consistency. That's what it comes down to. But yeah, and then like you said, the AFC race here. I finally was able to get the scenarios up. Yeah, like you said, basically the Patriots win, they're in. If they lose, they need both the Dolphins and Pittsburgh to lose as well. I don't see the Dolphins losing to the Jets though. So this feels like, in reality, the Patriots aren't going to beat the Bills today.
It'll be interesting to see
like
what Bills team shows up in this game.
Well, yeah, but I think Miami, realistically, even though they have the second best out of the 3 chances to make the playoffs here,
they may have the best
according to the math. I think they have the best chance because all they need to do is win and have the Pats lose. And let's be honest, the Pats are going to Buffalo. Hamlin's going to be making a pregame big,
He'll
jumbotron
probably be on the big screen
appearance
before the game starts.
Exactly.
Right.
That is going to just be a hyped, emotional place. The Patriots didn't stand a chance in the first place. If the spread was 40, I might still take the Bills.
Well, and it's an interesting. I mean, with the NFL and their divisional matchup week 18, setup that they have, you've got the Browns. Even though the Browns aren't playing for anything, but that's a big rivalry game. The Browns and the Steelers, it is, and the Steelers have not been the most consistent team this season, but they're going to be playing for something in Pittsburgh because, I mean, yeah, they've got that string of Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. They have to win today to keep that intact, whether or not they make the playoffs. But so you've got a nice rivalry game there and something for them to play for outside of the playoffs. You've got, like you said, interesting situation with the Dolphins and the Jets, though, because yes, the Dolphins are playing against Joe Flacco of all people right now,
right,
because
but
Mike
the
White
Dolphins
can't go
don't
and
have
Zach
Tua,
Wilson won't go.
So,
but the Dolphins have Skylar Thompson and
Skylar, what a great name!
Yeah,
and
a one-armed Bridgewater.
Right.
So yeah. Now
That's
the
right. You're
word
right.
was
that
he
game
was
is
throwing.
a bit more up to grabs.
The word was that Teddy Bridgewater was throwing this week and that he was looking better as the week went on, but he's playing with a broken thumb if he plays.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about so you've either got your backup quarterback with one hand and not his throwing hand,
or the backup to the
the backup to the backup who's a rookie. Yeah, and so playing for the playoffs, that's ouch. I mean, that's about the same situation that the Titans were in last night with Joshua Dobbs. He's an emergency quarterback. I mean, he's Baker Mayfield from 2 weeks ago. Essentially, I mean, he's only been there a couple of weeks. Last week was his first start ever,
and Dobbs almost pulled off something magical for Titans. He looked all right. He was not the reason they lost that game.
Looked great until the fourth quarter, and then he made a couple of mistakes, but
for the majority of that game, he was solid.
No, he
but not
was
solid
very
enough,
solid.
I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe. Yeah, the Jacksonville almost blew that game because they should have won that game easily, and they just.
They did not have the offensive game that they probably should have.
Exactly.
I mean, Etienne didn't have a great game, but the Titans are good against running backs anyway. But
right.
I mean, Lawrence was just kind of not necessarily dead
and
on his. I mean, he missed a couple.
He
missed a wide open.
I think I've ever seen when he wide open.
Zajo in the end zone.
He looked scared. He looked scared last night. He looked scared in that game, like where he was feeling the pressure. He was he really didn't want to get hit. It didn't look like the fearless, tough Lawrence.
Didn't look like the guy he's been for the last 2 months. No, definitely did not look like the quarterback that we've seen the last 2 months. But he's in the playoffs for the first time now, and that's a good team, and congratulations to them.
Right.
I put a tweet out, and I saw a couple other people tweet. it just underlines how terribly Urban Meyer did last year. I mean, this team hasn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
They finished with a winning record. They're 9-8. The division champions.
Yep.
They've won like 6 out of their last 7 since the bye. They've only lost 1 game, and turned it on at the right time. And Trevor Lawrence looks like a top pick at quarterback, actually.
And they have a defense that you fear going into the playoffs.
Right.
So
Right. And man, for them to be absolutely horrendous last year. I mean, oh yeah, Urban Meyer, yeah, stay home, buddy. Stay home.
yeah, you definitely want to make sure you have an unlisted address.
well, with it being week 18 and all but 5 teams are either they already know their fate. They're either in or they're not. Other than these 5 teams still playing for it, it brings up some interesting roster situations for this week. One, if you are still playing fantasy this week, Elijah Mitchell has been activated for the game.
That's right.
So that could be a little punch for the offense there. Davis Webb is going to be getting the start for the Giants at quarterback, which is
you want to stay
Not
far
Tyrod
away from
Taylor.
any Giants players if you're in fantasy.
Yeah.
Stay away from
And then,
them.
and
Even Barkley, you want nothing to do with.
No, because they're not
Indiana.
playing any of them. They have nothing to play for. They won't move up or down. So they're going to rest everybody and be gunning for next week, which they should be.
Right.
In all honesty.
And plus, it's on the road, so it's not like they have to play for their fans or anything else. So
yeah, no.
Yeah. And then Jalen Hurts will be playing today, so that's it seems like they're going to use this as like a warm up game to get him back used to the flow before the playoffs hit, which I think is smart. So
They should
have a
win
bye,
this game.
They
even
locked
with-
up the bye, so
Even if Gardner Minshew was playing, they should win this game. But then we saw last night, we all thought the Jaguars would duck walk the Titans, and that didn't happen.
that's why
You
you
still have to
lace
win
them
the
up
game.
and play the game.
You still have to, exactly. You still have to play this. And you still have to win it. So,
yep.
but
But if you're have any Philadelphia
situation.
Eagles players in fantasy, you will definitely want to get them going.
Yeah, because I do think at least for the first half, we'll see if Hurts plays the full game if the game gets out of hand. But at least for that first half, I think he's going to be trying to go full speed and trying to, like I said, get back in the rhythm with his guys.
and one
So I
half
think
of
you can
football
still
could be
expect-
enough. One half
That's
of
right.
football
We've
could be
seen it
enough.
plenty of times, especially someone like him who he can get a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown in the first half easy, and he'll hit the 20-point mark for you in the first half, and you're good.
Well, and especially this week, we just talked about it. If you're still playing fantasy, whoever else is still playing fantasy is in the same damn boat you are. Where
Exactly.
you don't,
Right.
I mean, maybe that
You're-
dude had Daniel Jones as his starting quarterback,
Right. Or
well,
Tom
that guy's not
Brady, for
playing.
that matter.
Right. So
Mhm.
everybody's in the same boat where half your guys aren't necessarily even realistically available, and the other half you have no idea how long or how much they're going to play or if. Right. So one half of football could be enough. So it's still the time where if your player's team is playing and
Mhm.
he's playing, even if it's starting and playing a half or whatever, you still want to start that stud. You don't want to be, you only want to be looking to the third and fourth tier guys if you absolutely have to. In the case of, like you brought up, Saquon Barkley. If
That's right.
Saquon, if he even sees a field, and I haven't seen enough yet to even know if they're going to dress those guys, but that Barkley's not going to get more than a handful of carries.
That's right.
It's
So
a preseason game in week 18
that's right.
for a lot
So
of teams.
Bellinger or any of their wide receivers stay
Mhm.
far away from any of them.
But when you've got Cowboys and the Eagles are still fighting for that
Or
division
the
title,
49ers
they
or the
both
Seahawks.
still have to win. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. 49ers,
Those are the
Seahawks,
scenarios you want to look for.
these teams that still have to win. And we talked about the Packers and the Lions, and the Vikings are still actually playing for a 2 seed, even though
Mhm.
realistically, I think that goes to San Francisco. It's still in play for them. So these teams that still have something to play for, even if they only have their guys in for a half, if the Vikings are up 20-something to 3 at halftime, you're probably not
against
seeing
the
a lot
Bears,
of Dalvin
that's a
Cook and Jeff
realistic
Jefferson in the
possibility.
second half. But that one half of football could be enough to get you your touchdown.
Yeah,
And
and they
a
definitely
touchdown
want
and
to get
50 yards
Justin
from your guy
Jefferson
could be
back
enough.
on track after last week's one catch debacle.
Well, let's be honest. If you're in a league that waits till the final week of the season to play its fantasy championship, you're already signed up for
Right.
knowing that it's going to be all
A
luck.
bumpy ride.
Really, like it's going to be a bumpy
Yeah.
ride. It's going to be a big chance of not all luck, but a big part of it is just luck at this time of year when it comes to fantasy, because we just don't know when guys are going to be sat down in games. You can't predict it. Even if the coaches outright say something that they're posturing, you just can't predict it. So good luck to everyone there.
Right, they're still trying to win games for the most part. Even
well, that's why those are the
posture.
that's why those are the scenarios you got to look for. You got to look for the ones where you know they're going to play the whole game. Those are the safest plays for you to do. I am curious if you guys heard of any creative ways that fantasy leagues from last week, who had the championships last week with the whole Bengals and Bills game, not finishing and not happening. If you guys heard of any creative ways that leagues decided the championship, because I heard of one yesterday on TikTok that I absolutely loved. That I thought was fantastic. Basically, the two guys in the championship went on Madden, drafted their teams as they are in their fantasy league, and then ran a simulation and watched. No, they didn't play. They just ran the simulation and watched it as if they were watching a Sunday football game. And the video was hilarious because these guys are standing there watching a computer simulated game, yelling, "Throw the ball, like they're cheering for their guys." And they just both agreed that no matter what their guys had scored for points, because they might have had one guy left, but it didn't matter what they scored the rest of that week. It was going to come down to that simulation, that game. And I was like, look, if both guys agree on it, that's fun.
Right,
it's a creative, easy way to do it.
And you want it
But I
to be
didn't know if
fun.
you
It's
guys have heard of
supposed to be
anything.
fun. It's supposed to be something between friends.
Yeah.
I think the leagues that I think literally every league I was in that still had a question about things left it up to the app that was hosted.
Yeah.
That's what happened in the leagues I'm in, because all of a sudden I got an email from ESPN congratulating me for being the champion.
Like,
And I'm like, wait a
hey.
second, right?
Hey.
Wait a second. I thought we were waiting for some word, and apparently that was the word.
That did end up costing me in a couple
was
of
it.
third place games, because I had in the one I had I was down by about 10. I still had Burrow as my quarterback. He had Devin Singletary playing, so there was still a very real
Devin
possibility I
Singletary
catch
was
him.
not going to be the guy you wanted in that
There
game.
was still a very real possibility I could have caught him, but
Mhm.
we just decided we would leave it up to the bylaws of the league. Basically stated that in most of these situations we would just let the website determine it, the host determine it. We did talk about it as a league. We did decide, let's just leave it up to the league. We got nowhere to be. Let's find
right.
And, so
Essentially,
it cost me, but
if you were going to do something other than wait on the league, you had to do something before that word came down, because then you couldn't set it up to play with week 18 after that, because the app was done.
Yeah. So I think I had one dynasty league where there was a question.
Yeah,
There was
I
a
lost
realistic
in one
question,
dynasty
and there
league
was a
for
little
that.
bit of
So I was like, okay, I'll buy it.
There was a little bit of discussion about it. I honestly haven't seen how the discussion came out, because it was not. Did not involve me. I'm building for the future in that league, but for the most part, I think a lot of people try to go easy routes, but I like hearing things like that where like somebody had a fun idea and tried to make something of the situation.
And I know in my home league, the third place matchup, which hadn't been decided yet either, like in our league, you get your money back. Both guys just agreed to donate that to Hamlin's GoFundMe anyways. It's a charity fund. So
very cool.
So that I was like, okay, that part's solved. That's good for them. Like I was a fan of that. So just a reminder, just take it easy on your commissioners. That was a tough position.
That's
All
right,
your league
man.
commissioners were
Go
in.
easy on these guys, man.
Nothing. No precedent for these commissioners to know what to do in that situation to keep it fair when people's hard-earned money is on the line. So
it happened at the absolute worst time from a fantasy standpoint. And again,
don't be throwing around any FUs or any of that stuff.
No good time for something like that to happen. And obviously, DeMar Hamlin took precedence in all of that. But it was such a weird timing from the fantasy and betting world standpoint, because it was championship weekend for most people. If it had happened in week 3 or 4, it's a speed bump hiccup in like what we do, right? But we have brought up DeMar Hamlin. We've talked about him. We talked about the game, but we have not necessarily talked about his condition. How awesome is it
I know
that he has had his breathing tube removed. For anybody who
Yep.
somehow has been living under a rock, hasn't been paying attention, his breathing tube has been removed. The doctor's statement that came out yesterday said that he is still considered critical condition, but his cognitive function, his brain function is excellent. And that was their word, not mine. Excellent. And he's communicating with his family. He actually was able to.
He was on FaceTime. So,
with his team on Friday in a meeting to tell them he loved them. He actually got to release his own statement yesterday, thanking everybody for their support and for their love, and saying that it'll come back to him threefold. Just and saying that he was overwhelmed by the support. Yeah, his $2,500 goal for his fundraiser is now up over $8 million.
Yeah.
So they'll have some things to do there. But yeah,
and
awesome.
And huge
credit.
credit.
Best news they could get there. And yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, and huge credit to the Cincinnati fans and organization who stepped up in that situation to support, and obviously you go back a few years when the Bills had I forget exactly what it was, but they had something where they were raising money in the Cincinnati I'm sorry, I have it backwards. Cincinnati was raising money, and the Bills fans stepped up. It was for Andy Dalton's thing.
Yes.
And the Bills fans stepped up and made a big public push. And they seem to have this nice little, almost like brothership going on here.
Bills Mafia did the same thing for Lamar Jackson too. A year or two ago. I made that point on another show I guested on for a friend of mine that I've been on a couple times. But he had a guy that's actually a Bills covers the Bills. On the show with him, and I made the point too. I said, the Bills fans seem to have that kind of a connection where they do pull together, they do rally together, and this time they just so happen to have the opportunity, I guess is a weird way to put it, but to rally around one of their own rather than they've shown that they will rally around someone else in need, and this time it was them that had the need. So it was a neat thing to see that people came together, just wanted to help and support in any way they could.
A lot of respect for those fan bases.
Your house is going to be torn apart.
Right?
Calm down, Cat.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, Manscaped, and see if Kevin can tame his zoo over there. We will be right back after this.
This holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. Everyone loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like dessert with the help of Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have blessed you with the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner topic. Tell your in-laws about your new cutting-edge ball trimmer and gift yourself or the man in your life the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Trim your pumpkins by going to Manscaped.com and use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY for free shipping and 20% off. Think your holiday spread is good? It's time to give thanks to the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, or as I like to call it, the perfect package for your package. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. Think of it as a cornucopia for your balls. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
Woo. It was a valiant attempt, Mrs. Wilson. We saw you attempting to put that back up.
Yeah, that was an experiment to try, put up a banner behind me, and so we are 0 for 1 here. So
that's right. You guys have seen the course of this year how many times my background has changed trying to figure it out. I'm sure this will stay temporary, but hey, these are photography backgrounds. I got two of them for two of them for $20 on Amazon. So
that's cool.
There was a nice little touch up there. So I'm quite happy with that.
I thought maybe you were locked in a basement somewhere, or wine cellar, and you couldn't get out.
Yeah,
But-
no, it's still no matter what I or Kevin do, Chase will always have us beat anyways because what's a better background than a bar?
I
Right,
do have
you know,
actually. You can't really
yeah.
see it behind my microphone now, but I do have the Belly Up Fantasy Sports banner now behind me, hanging up.
So I
It's
noticed
covering up the.
I
wine
noticed it
rack.
earlier because your microphone's almost perfectly positioned right in the center of that,
Right in the
and
middle,
blue,
takes it right out.
the blue circle around the mic caught
That's
my eye. I was
right.
like,
It
wait,
just gives it
that
like
looks
a
familiar.
heavenly, kind of scenario there.
Yeah, I was like, that circle
Yeah,
looks
right.
familiar, right?
It's not a personal protest. It's just how the mic fell. But run the next banner past the cat first before you hang that thing up, man. Because if
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like
not
I
a
said,
fan.
0 for 1, and it's like trying to race a wheelbarrow against Chase's, Ferrari over there. So
well, I can thank my wife for this. So
it's back to the drawing board
I will always
for
put that
future
out there.
episodes. So.
This is thanks to what the wife does. It's not anything of mine. Trust me. I haven't written that many articles yet to pay for one of these.
Well, let's see who. Let's see. I'm quickly looking through some questions out there, see if there's any relevant start sits for this week, and it's looking like this. There's really no. I don't think there's many people playing championships this week.
Well,
honestly,
there really
seems
aren't.
like the league standard has gone the right way in keeping it out of the last week. Because we're already kind of getting to dynasty questions here. I'm seeing a lot of dynasty trades, a lot of
Hey, there we go.
draft picks getting moved. Which we
Well,
will be
honestly,
bringing that back
I
this
know that-
offseason.
I know that, and I've said this before, and I don't want to give them too much airtime on our show, but I know the ESPN 4-letter leagues, their public leagues, I think have 2-week rounds where their first round and their second round both run 2 weeks, and it's they take the total between the 2 weeks. So just because you had a terrible week 17 doesn't mean you're out of it yet because you still got today to play.
That's the only scenario I think it's all right to play fantasy football week 18.
Right. And I know there are other leagues that have either aggregate championships where they combine.
Usually that's set up by the commissioner, whatever league that is, that he decides or she decides to do that.
But I know that there are some, but it's by and large, by far the most popular scenario is to not play that last week of the season. I know that a couple of years ago when they went to the 18-week season, the 17-game schedule, you had to decide too. Hey, are we still going to just play through 16 games, or are we going to play through 17 games? What are we going to do? But
I've never been in a league that played all the way to the end, so I'm not the expert certainly in that area.
Don't let that cat knock that mirror down, dude, or we're really going to have an issue. That'll be.
Well, it's going to take more than her to move that mirror behind me, so you might there is a little bit.
Don't challenge her. Don't tempt
her.
There is
I'll keep my mouth shut. Yeah, I'll keep my mouth shut about that. So
there is one interesting question here for someone's team this week. It's a PPR running back question from Craig Cameron here. He's got AJ Dillon or Jamal Williams, and that's a legitimate question. I feel because that's the same game. They're both playing
against each other,
and they both been playing good. That's a tough one. I would probably have them ranked. I don't know what I ranked them like this week, actually, off the top of my head, but I imagine I have them ranked pretty close together here. And I think I'm going.
That's a great question. It's a great question because you've got a guy that's led the league in rushing touchdowns this season, and always gets the rock down low versus a guy who has been playing much better lately, in AJ Dillon. I guess based on my rankings and solely on my rankings, I've got Dillon ranked ahead of Williams by about 6 positions. Actually, I've got Dillon at 21, and I've got Williams at 27 for this week. But I mean, that's a good position to be in. It's a problem to have this week, dude.
Yeah.
You've actually got a couple guys who are going to play
for you.
And
I'm going to be playing hard.
I would probably maybe look at Williams a little bit because Green Bay's run defense is not stellar. So I might look at that a little bit, but either way, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, Green Bay is 12 against running backs. I got
it right here.
I'm looking on Fantasy Pros right
my
now.
rankings,
So I'm
I have them as number 26 against running back. So maybe I'm way off on the
Well-
beat trail on that one. Then and
Because I've got Detroit, as
Detroit
22
is
with
good
those
against running backs, but terrible everywhere else. So I'd probably stick with Williams.
you know what?
on this.
You're right. Green Bay has the worst defense against the run in terms of fantasy and fantasy points that they allow. So if you want to use that as your guide, and keep in mind that AJ Dillon still is the second running back on that
That's right.
team. He is not
That's right,
their
'cause you got-
all-purpose guy.
Right,
like
because you
Aaron
got
Jones
Jones
is.
over there, of course, and because you got Swift with the Lions, but I think that Williams will get more play because Swift is not the dominant running back. Like maybe the other two guys in Green Bay split 50-50,
Mhm.
but I think Williams will get more touches than Swift this week.
Anecdotally,
so
I
that's the
feel
way
like
I'd go.
I feel like the Lions are much more apt to use Swift between the 20s and much more apt to use Williams in the red zone or down low and as their goal line
100%.
guy.
That's
Whereas
right.
the
And that's where your
Packers,
fantasy points come from.
the Packers don't necessarily have as much of a pattern of doing that. They will throw to AJ Dillon and they will keep Aaron Jones in the red zone. It's not like they use Aaron Jones
That's
solely
right.
as a passing guy. They run with him all the time. And so, yeah, I mean,
So they're both legitimately starting running back in this game.
like I said, based solely on my rankings, I have AJ Dillon ranked higher, but that's a coin flip that you can feel pretty good about today, dude, in terms of the league's scenario. So,
Little news just dropped within the last minute. Mark Andrews is inactive. Isaiah Likely now a targetable tight end for this week.
definitely.
What if you
In all
drafted
formats.
Mark Andrews early, like a lot of guys did? That did not go well for you this year.
No, I love him. I think he's a great player, but
He's a great
ouch.
player, no
Between
question.
Lamar Jackson's injury and his own injury, just ouch. It hasn't been good, especially the last 2-3 months. First month and a half of the season, Mark Andrews was gold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that whole situation in Baltimore was just so inconsistent.
If you're playing in fantasy and you got any Baltimore players, you better not be counting on them this week.
They're going to play hard. I like the running
They are,
backs. I like
but,
the running backs, but like there's just nothing else, especially now with Andrews out.
Yeah,
There's
Dobbins
no
is
pass
out,
game there
so-
to speak of. There's no one in their receiver core that you want to deal with.
No.
And even with the running game, I like J.K. Dobbins the best out of all of them. But
but Dobbins is out, so he's not playing.
yes, right. So that's your issue there. You know they're going to run the ball.
Are you talking about Edwards now, or is that where we're going to head?
I liked him early in the season when Dobbins
Yeah,
was
earlier.
out.
Yeah.
So
This, like we've said, week 18 is the purpose of it existing is for pure chaos. So anything can happen.
Pure
this
chaos,
week.
and aside from fantasy, you want to watch a game where you know the players are going to play. The starters are going to play, and so that's what you're looking for this last Sunday if you're not playing fantasy football. So if you're not doing anything at 3:00, you might want to tune in to the Seattle Rams game because those players will all be in the game.
Yes. And
Especially
from a DFS standpoint,
if you're in fantasy and you got Cam Akers, you want to start him from now until they shut down the stadium.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about time we finally see him be Cam Akers.
Yeah,
it was nice.
And
nice
so
to see.
that if you because he was dropped in quite a few leagues and deservedly so.
He warranted it,
And,
and then all of a sudden, Darrell Henderson fell off the planet.
Yeah, so if you happen to have Cam Akers, you maybe kept him, whatever, you're happy right now.
Yeah, it's paying off for you if you were able to hold on to him. But I get it if you dropped him because there was one, he deserved it, and two, you most likely needed the spot for someone else.
That's right. He was the leader of the Outhouse Brigade there for a while. So, and I happened to pick him up, and so he classifies to me as being a league winner because he's one of those guys that you pick up late in the season or you don't expect anything from, and all of a sudden he scores 3 touchdowns.
Maybe helped you make a run. Maybe helped you make a run when everybody else got hurt or whatever. Yeah.
That's right. So league winner, Cam Akers, right there.
That sounds so weird to say, but technically
Right.
it could very well be right. But yeah, so let's talk about some more of these games because honestly we've hit on a lot of the ones that are going to matter today. And like we keep saying, especially if you are playing DFS today, just target the games that matter. Unless you're taking some wild shots in a GPP, that's the only time I'd say you go out and get some of those chaotic games. But if you're playing it safe and just want to win some money, you got to target the games that matter. But let's take a look at because. Sorry about that.
Breathe, dude. Breathe.
Yeah, breathe.
Look, we had 4 straight days of 60-degree weather here, and my body thought it was spring and thought it was time for my allergies, and now I just have
and
a cough.
They accommodated you.
It's been annoying me the last couple of days, but so I do want to talk about because now I think no matter what happened last night with the Chiefs winning. And the coin toss and all that, they locked up the home field advantage now for if they get to or is the AFC Championship still a coin flip neutral site situation?
My understanding is that it's only coin flip territory if either the Bills or the Bengals end up being involved, because had that game been played Monday night, the winner of that game comes out of it still alive for the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And I mean, with the Chiefs winning, I think it still keeps things in, but
it keeps it that way.
Especially because the Bengals, from what I read, if the Bengals had won Monday night and all 3 teams are tied, the Bengals had the 3-way tiebreaker between the 3 teams. And so, especially if the Bengals are involved, I think it still calls the location into question. I haven't read all of the fine print as to, which high school field they'd play it in halfway between the 2 cities or whatever else. But like, I think it's mostly only if those 2 teams are involved. And it also does come down then to, there is that scenario today between the Bengals and the Ravens where if the 2 teams end up matched up if they end up matched up next week for the playoffs, because one of them is a division winner and the other one is a wild card, then that as well as coin flip.
That's where the coin flip comes in. That's right.
Where they
and that's where the Bengals
in Baltimore
are very upset about that whole scenario, but they really can't get too uppity about it because they'd say, well, tomorrow.
Right. Unfortunately for the Bengals, they probably do lose out the most in this.
But if you're going to lose to a quarterback, like Tyler Huntley on your own field, then I have no sympathy.
Hey, you don't like it? Take care of business,
for
right?
the Bengals. They take care of business and they leave the coins in the pocket.
Yeah.
So
but
take care of business, and then there's nothing to argue about.
It did not shock me to see that they opposed the scenario when the meeting came down the other day,
right?
Because they probably are the team that loses out the most. I mean, they were leading the game at the time of the tragedy. They were playing well. They owned the 3-way tiebreaker for the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed is more important than it's ever been here in the last 2 years now because of the bye.
That's right.
Abolished
and you get the home field all the way through. So
I mean, the Bengals probably in the entire scenario did lose out more than anybody else in terms of the football on field fallout of things. Again, it's not to be callous about Damar Hamlin's situation, but just the fact of the standings, the Bengals are probably the ones that came out on the short end of that stick.
Yeah, and it does bring into the interesting then conversation of if it does come down to 2 of those 3 teams in the AFC Championship and they have to play it at a neutral site, if they go that route, where are they playing it? Because really, if you're just going geographically between the say it's Buffalo and KC, really the only 2 stadiums in between them is either Pittsburgh or Philly, and that's not, I don't think, ideal in either case, really, or it doesn't favor either side.
I think Indianapolis needs to keep their people
Indianapolis
on standby.
would be my answer to that as well.
I think Indianapolis needs to keep their people on standby.
They are out as being an option because they have another event scheduled for when that would be.
AFC
so
Championship
they
game getting preempted by Monster Jam.
Yeah, if they had a chance to host the AFC Championship game, they might move some things around.
You
yeah.
would
Well,
think.
If it's like
I-
monster
I
truck
did hear that
rally or
last
something like that, they'd be saying monster trucks, you can go outside and do that. So
yeah, I did hear that last night that that Indianapolis is apparently out as an option.
Kelly Clarkson
we'll-
concert or something like that.
We'll
What-
see.
what do they
We'll
got
see
going
if
on?
that changes. We'll see if that
a
changes.
Kelly Clarkson contest while they're jumping, dump trucks or something.
Yeah,
No, what it is.
man.
But now, do you think they specifically try to target a dome, or do they care? Or as far as coming from the NFL standpoint, do you think they care whether it's in a dome or outside, or would they prefer played in a dome? I'd be curious.
I
'cause
think
was
they
having this
prefer to
conversation with
play it
some
in a
friends
dome just
yesterday.
because you know that there's less
Mhm.
rigmarole to worry about. But yeah, like you said, there's not really a dome in between there and here. Now they may go back up to Detroit if Detroit's not in play.
Yeah,
I have not. Yeah, like I said, I haven't read the fine print about who's in play for it or not. But they could go back. Detroit's already done it once.
Yeah.
It might be a nice consolation prize if Detroit's not in it. Even if they make the playoffs, it's not a guarantee they'd be in by that round, and they wouldn't be hosting anyway because
and if
they'd
it's
be
the
the
Bills, that'll be
seed.
if it's the Bills, that'll be the second time they've had to travel there for a neutral site
Right.
game.
Right.
So yeah,
Otherwise,
if you're the NFL,
otherwise you
just
have to go the complete opposite route and stop trying to split the difference or go
Yeah.
close and just ship them somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah, should go.
but you
either
can't plan
East
on
or West
Minneapolis because they could still be in it and hosting a
Yep.
game that weekend
of
You
their
can't-
own. That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So
Yeah, it's
So
gonna
if
be an
you don't
interesting
want to
scenario.
interrupt the monster truck, I don't know what you do.
I will be
So,
curious, actually.
It's obvious
does-
the NFL hopes the whole thing shakes out, and they don't have to make any decision. That's what they're hoping for.
Right. Well, they might be hoping
And,
for it, but it means that they don't get two of their top three seeds probably matched up in that game too, though. It also means that you've got most likely Kansas City matched up against a lower tier team. They're matched up with the Patriots or the Dolphins or
Let's see. What's
Yeah,
what's the weekend of AFC of the championship games? Championship
2 weeks
weekend
for the
this year.
Super Bowl.
It'll be 3 weeks from today, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, according to the Lucas Oil Stadium's website, Monster Jam doesn't start until February 4th,
So there you go.
and so
They legitimately have a monster truck rally.
I know it was.
That was just me taking a
Monster
shot in the
Jam.
dark. That was not
Monster
planned.
truck. There we have it.
That's
So I'm not
awesome.
sure what else might be happening there that wouldn't be on the schedule here that would get in the way.
I don't know. Maybe Chase was right. Kelly Clarkson live.
Maybe
knows?
it's December.
Stars
Yeah,
on
no,
ice
there's
or
nothing.
whatever.
How many events do you have on a Sunday? I don't know. I mean, if it was a Saturday, I could see maybe something going on in the stadium. But whatever it is, you got to go out in the parking lot to solve that because we're having a football game here.
Tyler Huntley officially inactive for the Ravens today. Anthony Brown will get the start.
Wow.
Ooh, that's
So, like
not-
I
yeah.
was just saying, if the Bengals can't win this game, they don't deserve to have a playoff game at home next week. They don't deserve
And
it.
it's so
Yep.
weird because we know the Ravens are in, so it's not like they're not
The
playing
Ravens
for
are
their
in.
playoff
They got nothing to
lives.
play for anyway.
They're not playing for
Yep.
their playoff lives, but there's still seeding. There's still there's a lot. How many weird emergency quarterback scenarios playing for something this week are we going to have?
I know.
And even last week, the Raiders were still alive coming in technically to last week, and they played Stidham over Carr. You've got Josh Dobbs, who's been playing for the last couple of weeks for a team that up until the fourth quarter last night could have won the division, and we've got Thompson and Flacco going at it for the last wild card slot. Now it's like, man, what a weird time.
But it is a weird one.
Jared Stidham last night, by the way, leading rusher for the Raiders, 7 carries, 50 yards. Josh Jacobs, 17 for only 45. Brutal.
That was
for
yeah.
Josh
So
Jacobs.
if you were still alive in your fantasy playoffs and was hoping that Josh Jacobs was going to lead you to the to the promised land, as I thought, and it was reasonable to expect that he would have done that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't.
he did not.
He didn't.
He did not. And he only
And
had
that's
2
like
catches
what we
for
say,
5 yards.
that's why they
so-
play.
I had him ranked as
Kansas
my
City's run
number
defense
5.
is not strong. That's right. Kansas City's defense is not strong against the run, but they kept him under control. So,
Kansas City's defense isn't necessarily strong against a whole hell of a lot of.
That's right.
of
That's right.
things,
So
except for
it's kind of
defenses.
interesting how you have these strong offenses and weak defenses, like Minnesota and stuff like that. So, and Detroit, if they get in,
Mhm.
it's like they forgot how to play defense a lot of places.
Well, that's definitely been an issue around the league.
Yeah. And same
Um,
thing with the Seahawks. If they happen to manage to get in, their defense is absolutely putrid.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to say, even though I'm wearing a Seahawks shirt right
Hey,
now,
man.
their defense is putrid.
That's John
So-
Schneider, so that's not your fault. You didn't draft him.
That's
You didn't
right.
sign him.
All right, we're going to take our last quick break here and hear from True Classic Tees. I'm wearing the long sleeve one right now, and I keep looking at
The
myself
long
in the mirror
sleeve
there and
plastic
thinking,
tee is
damn.
awesome. All right.
But we will be
Check it
right
out.
back after this short break where I want to get you guys' opinion on the rumors about Mike McDaniels, and maybe we'll get into some predictions for the upcoming playoffs. So we will be right back after this.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt to couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with six-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
Might just have to go out to a bar after this and show off this T-shirt.
That's right.
Let's just take my chances and see what happens. But,
Alex
but
on the prowl, everyone, look out.
On the prowl.
But anyways, I don't know if you guys have been following the rumors all week about Mike McDaniel's job being on the line if they lose today, and the room. I've been so interested in these rumors because it fascinates me that in a span of 3 years, the Dolphins will have fired both Brian Flores. I know different circumstances there, and Mike McDaniels, but two guys who were arguably getting the most out of the Dolphins team that anyone had gotten out of in a while, that the players loved and were playing hard for. If they fire Mike McDaniels, to me, it just is a massive underlying issue with the NFL and coaching that I think is a big problem across the entire NFL, that no one's able to get their footing and be consistent and get anything going. And they keep blaming the coaches, but they're not giving anyone a chance to actually get going. And when they fire someone who has a winning record or close to a winning record and is doing good, it baffles me. How do you guys feel about Mike McDaniels? Because I know he's a different type of head coach than your typical, the way he's kind of goofy and fun and whatnot, but he doesn't deserve to be fired.
No, not at all. I know they've lost 5 in a row here or whatever, but they've also had a compromised Tua Tagovailoa.
Right.
I mean,
You're telling me you're going to fire a guy because Skylar Thompson didn't win the game?
right?
Right?
I just good teams, good organizations, successful organizations do not fire the coach every 2 years and plug somebody else in and think that's going to magically fix everything. You know,
Exactly.
on top of everything else that they have effed up, to be polite, in Washington, that's one thing that they constantly are doing is shuffling people through in positions of power, other than Dan Snyder, the one guy you wish they would shuffle through. And I mean, and look at how much success or relative lack thereof that they've had. Good organizations don't do that. They wait and they wait and they give people time to establish continuity at the top of the organization. Yes. And you should only be firing that coach when it's an absolute last resort or when it's absolutely egregious. Like
Matt Patricia in Detroit.
Matt Patricia in Detroit, Urban Meyer last year definitely warranted it. To be honest with you, you can argue about it, but I agree with the Nathaniel Hackett firing this year in Denver. You can argue, one way or another, how many years you should give a guy. But I just think that giving someone an opportunity to establish continuity, you have to take the entire thing into context. How was their quarterback situation on that team? How was their injury situation on that team throughout, not just this year, but the entire tenure of that coach, whether he's been there 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Yeah. And good organizations don't just fire coaches on a whim because of a 4 or 5 game stretch.
Right. My question is how much money do these teams have that they can pay 3 coaches all at the same time?
You saw that study that came out that the league itself stepped back and was like, holy son of a bitch. Like, these guys have been they're spending a lot of money on dudes.
I don't understand this, and I didn't understand. I really didn't understand why last year Brian Flores got fired. Okay. Yeah. And then you bring in this new guy, right? And so you're going to change again? No, I thought that the Dolphins, when they were healthy, they were playing good. Well, they had everything that you'd want to see.
They were pushing Buffalo for the division.
They were pushing Buffalo for the division. They went up to Baltimore or whatever. They played Baltimore, and they played these teams hard. And so then all of a sudden you get these injuries, and so does that mean that the guy in Jacksonville or Tennessee, right? Because they lost 6 in a row, right? Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
And they already got rid of the general manager, which is kind of, reverse of what they normally do. But they, So you telling me he's out, right?
Yeah, he better not be. He should not be.
He better not be, because all you had was, when he was healthy, was one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in football. They had nothing else. Yeah. Nothing. So, you could talk about Meyer and Jacksonville, but at least that was, they fired him for cause, and they're not paying him for the next 6 years.
Yeah, he was kicking kickers and
so they fired him for cause. Denver made a huge mistake hiring Nathaniel Hackett, and so they're going to pay him. If I'm a coach and somebody comes, you're fired, great. I'll pack up my crap and I'll walk out, because you're going to pay me for the next 3 years.
I'll go sit in that awesome backyard I built with the money you already paid me, and
that's right.
Add to it with the money you're going to pay me to do nothing. So, good organizations don't do
Look
that.
at the Steelers. They've had 3 coaches since 1970 or whatever.
And they have won Super Bowls with all of them. And
they won Super Bowls with all of them, and they hired
the current guy's having his worst season, and he could make the playoffs with a win today.
That's right.
Which is unreal.
What do the Steelers do that these other guys don't?
Right.
Right. Where do they find these guys that are successful as they are?
Yep.
And the other team can't seem to figure out.
Look at the other side of the field in the Steelers game today to see an organization who has cycled through quarterbacks and coaches and general managers and front office and everything else, and can't seem to figure out and land on a combination of the 3 that they want to keep around for more than 8 months of the shot. The Browns, successful organizations, and I think everybody across professional sports would label the Pittsburgh Steelers as a professional and successful organization.
Yeah.
Successful organizations don't do that. And
You know,
it doesn't matter what sport. The only other sport that even seems to me close to that is, I mean, hockey seems like they're always cycling through coaches. The bad teams are always like, get that coach out of here. He's been there for like 73 games. You haven't even finished a full season. You got to give people a chance for continuity. And the best teams are the ones who keep that continuity. Unless it's out of their control,
Yep.
like if Sean McVay feels like he wants to leave this year, or wants to be done, and those kinds of things. But Pete Carroll in Seattle has been there for a while, and it's been Andy Reid in Kansas City. You know, good organizations hire the right guy, and they give the guys that they hire the opportunity to establish themselves.
right.
Yep.
And it's not 2 years,
Yeah,
let alone a year.
year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bottom line, Mike McDaniel should keep his job. We will see what happens. But yeah, that's if they fire him, it'll just be a travesty, I think, and just highlight an underlying issue in the NFL. That is going to start to have a big effect on the overall product, the overall business aspect, like internal business aspects of the way the NFL runs. I think it's getting to that point where it could have a major impact. But that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for us here this week 18. Before we go, I do want to shout out High Low Sports here on the Belly Up Network on Wednesday night at 8:00. Has got a big interview
Hells yeah.
with Cam Reddy from Liberty University, center there, just declared for the NFL draft. He will be joining the show 8:00 Wednesday night on High Low Sports. So check into that. Should be a good interview about his journey in football. He's been around on a few different teams, played for a few different coaches. So it's going to be nice to get his perspective on that whole process. So definitely check that out Wednesday night. Excuse me, at 8:00. I swear to God.
It's going to be all right, Andrew. It's going to be all right.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Even though this is the last day of the regular season, don't forget, Belly Up is still have plenty of shows.
Yes.
Going forward to tune into. There's a show every single night across the Belly Up network. So whether you're into basketball, hockey, whatever it might be, and baseball will be firing up before you know it. So don't be shutting down the Belly Up Sports Network. There's a lot of good stuff happening.
Pitchers and catchers will be reporting before you know it.
That's right.
Hell's yeah.
And we'll still be joining here on Sunday mornings. We'll be talking playoffs, and then we'll be talking. At some point, we'll be making a switch over to Dynasty Talk for the off-season special. So don't go anywhere. Stick around with us. There'll be more news coming out, I think, on the Tuesday and Wednesday night show when it comes to the off-season. But we'll get all that information out to you guys. See if that schedule's changing or if those other two spots will be staying the same. So yeah, Chase, what do you have going on in the meantime here as football winds down? Are you sliding over to other sports, or what can we expect out of you coming up?
I'll be sticking with fantasy football for the most part. I'll have some dynasty. I'll have a lot of dynasty content coming out here. In the interim, I'll also be covering like playoff fantasy implications. So like if you do one of the leagues where you draft guys that are on the playoff teams and that, I'll have some ranking / advice articles for that coming up here all through the playoffs. But I'm going to stick around with football. So if you're in a dynasty league, especially, continue to check back with us at bellyupfantasysports.com for in the football section, because you'll still see me there. And I'll like you said, I'll still be right here. So
that's right.
Perfect. And Kevin, are you just basically gearing up for baseball season now?
Well, baseball has been and always shall be my bread and butter. Yeah. So, because I'm a baseball guy, and I'm thinking that an article is coming up about who I suspect shall be the number one pick overall in fantasy baseball drafts, and who knows what else might be. We were banding around, maybe doing some basketball stuff, and so. There's going to be a lot of things. I'm just going to go with the flow, but you can be real sure that there's going to be stuff from me on a regular basis, regardless of the status of football. So it's going to be a great time.
You got to cover the Mariners, man. They've been making big moves.
That's right.
Justin Topa and signing AJ Pollock. And
Yeah, and all
you're
the
set
all
to
the
go.
all that's going on with
Sorry,
Carlos
everybody.
Correa and everything else, and the Mets signing just about every player there is under the sun.
Carlos
So there's
Correa,
a
you could
lot
start
of
a daily
stuff to look
podcast
forward
on
to.
him. You can start a daily show on Correa right now with what's going on with him. So
That's right.
good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, that is all going to be interesting stuff coming up. Like you said, you can find on the bellyupfantasysports.com website, bellyupsports.com as well. But like I said, that's going to do it for us. We will be back next Sunday, just like every Sunday at 11 o'clock a.m. here on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So come back, join us again. And if you are still playing this week, good luck and happy hunting on your championship.
That's right.
Salon
See you
Jabbar.
later all.